Happy New Year. Happy New Year to us all. Hope we all start off on a great foot, knowing what we want, where we want to go, and what we need to do. So, I struggled with this video. I recorded so many versions of it. A couple days done went by. I done nixed a few versions of it. So, I feel like I'm finally ready to put this one out. So, I'm going to have to backtrack a little bit just to give you a little backstory into where this next chapter is going. So before I went to Troy, I had met actually two people. I met a woman in the Bronx named Moet through some friends, through my family friends, and we want to staying in contact. Nothing crazy. Just made contact, and we definitely want to keep in close. So the other person I met before all this took place was I met a woman named Maria at Jimmy's Cafe in the Bronx. We took off pretty nice, pretty slow. We conversated back and forth, but we had never really seen each other. But when I got stranded in Albany, in Troy, she came. She offered to come get me. That was huge to me because that was just a great sign of loyalty that I was used to receiving from people that was going to be in my life for a long period of time. So she came and got me. I went back to New York with her, and that's when life took a took a the next chapter was written in my life. Went back with her, hung out with her, was trying to figure out how to get my money back right. She helped me tremendously, and then I wound up going to Baltimore with some other friends, or actually the same friends I had met Moet through. Wound up going to Baltimore with them, and Moet at the time had moved back to Charlottesville, Virginia, which is where I'm living now. She moved back to Charlottesville, and she was trying to get me to come pay a visit, and I kept putting it off and putting it off. And one year, oh, excuse me, actually all the same year, but I decided to go pay a visit, and it was a culture shock. But it grew on me. I wasn't used to people speaking to me, waving to me, starting conversations with me in public. But that was what Charlottesville was, and it was a weird introduction, but nonetheless, it was a real good start for me to realize, how things actually would take place for me in time. So I come down to Virginia to Charlottesville to visit, and came back to Charlottesville to visit, and it was really nice. I wound up making a bunch of money. I wound up making plugs, connects, and you take a city kid and you put him in a little small city, and he's gonna flourish. So I flourished. I didn't really deal with too many people, so I kept it, to the vest. But I definitely learned a lot in a short period of time. So I'm down here. I'm grinding. I'm on my hustle, and I took a loss. I'm not gonna go too much into detail, but I took a loss, as everybody in the game knows. The streets know losses is plentiful. So I took a loss. I had to get back up to New York to try to make it right. And at the same time, New York was going through a real drought. It was a real drought in the city, and so everybody was, when it's a drought, you see how the city can just become ugly. You see, just like it's a poverty thing. When you have a bunch of people trying to figure out how to eat in the the resources is limited, you can imagine all the drama and all the underhandedness that come into play. So I say all of that to say that I went back into the city to try to rectify my situation, and the people that I normally would deal with, they wasn't in a position to help me. So I had a friend that wound up coming and telling me that he can hook me up, and I'm gonna use his name. I'm really gonna use his name because I really feel like the story should be told. So I had a friend named Nathaniel, big black Nate. Everybody know Nate from Douglas and Harlem and all over the place. So so Nate told me he had somebody that could hook me up, and so I went up to 142nd area with him. I was on 142nd in Hamilton. I'm in the car, and once again, it's going to be spotty, but it's going to be based on what I remember of it. So he goes in the building. He's talking to he's dealing with the people, and I'm in the car. And I had a guy walk up to me, Spanish guy, walk up to me, puts a gun in my face, and tells me to give him my money. Now, in the city or growing up how I did, that it can be one of two things. It can go smoothly or it cannot go smoothly. Simple as that. And so he put the gun in my face. I gave him my money. He had all my money. He still just kept running and talking and, going back and forth over this and that. And, he spoke Spanish. So I picked up bits and pieces, but I really couldn't figure out what he was asking other than that he had the gun in my face. So I told him to put the gun away. We go back and forth. He didn't do it. So I grabbed my door handle. I slammed my door into him. And he stumbled back, and I recall swinging at him. I don't remember if I hit him. I remember swinging at him. I remember him swinging the gun around at the same time, and the first shot went off, hit me in my neck. And then the second shot hit me in my chest. And so, and hold on, maybe I should show. So the first shot hit me in my neck. The second shot hit me in my chest. They had to dig the bullet out, and I actually have more scars and all that's related to this one. But I wound up falling back into the car, and the next thing I know, I wake up in the hospital about a few days later, and I'm in a coma. I didn't have too much brain activity. I was flatlined twice. I was told I didn't have too much brain activity in my family. They were telling my family to pull a plug on me because I was brain dead, and I would be on life support. And my grandmother, who was my guardian, she was adamant. If this is God's will, this is what God's going to do. So leave him on life support. So it left me on life support. I wound up coming out of the coma, and I wound up basically taking some time to recover, but I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to talk. I had to learn how to do everything. But because I was brain dead, and when you have that big of a brain trauma, it affects people differently. But in the process of it all, one of my arteries was hit, and they had to take a vein out of my stomach and do a vein graft in its arm to keep the blood flowing and repair the artery. And so I've always had some sort of issues with this as well, which I'll go over down the road. But so this is the same hospital, St. Luke's Hospital, which is sort of weird if you ask me, but I have no qualm because this is how it played out for me. But this was on 141st in Broadway. my friend drove me to 114th in Amsterdam, which everyone knows is St. Luke's Hospital. It's the same hospital I was born in. And so I get there and they do all this stuff, and I survived. Had to learn how to do, like I said, everything again. And I came out of coma. I had amnesia. I didn't remember too many people at all. I did remember the people that was very close to me, and it's really weird to today. Like the people that wasn't very close to me, my memory of them is very spotty, but nonetheless, it's there. That's what it is. So after learning how to walk, talk, and all that again, I wind up getting released from the hospital. But no, first I had to go to Bellevue to start my in-house therapy because I was a patient in-house therapy. And then when I was released, I had to continue with therapy. And during this whole time, I was on parole. And because I hadn't reported in parole, most of the time with parole is they just act on things without finding out what's going on. And so they violated me. So I'm freshly out of the hospital, gun wounds and all, and I'm sent to Rikers Island. So I'm on Rikers Island in the infirmary dorm, which is still Rikers Island, which is still crazy stuff that happens. And the same thing happens in the infirmary happens in every other house on Rikers Island. So I'm in the infirmary, and actually the same infirmary that Tupac was in. So I'm in the infirmary, and I'm just anxious to get home. I'm anxious to get home. I'm blown up. Throughout all the blood and everything they put in me, I was bigger than ever. That's where I guess the Big Mike thing came from. I was always pretty broad and shouldered, but I was always slim most of my life. So it was really something for me to be blown up and big and swelled, but that's where I was. And so I was on Rikers and doing it, and I came home. I was with Maria. Maria came. She was so yeah. So all of this, while all this is happening, um, I'm actually in a process. I was in a process of moving to Virginia. All at the same time, all this is happening. And Maria actually had found a house, and she was deciding to move there. We had decided to move there, and we was in the process of doing it while all this happened. So you can imagine the hiccup involved in everything. But nevertheless, she wanted to going ahead and moving, and coming back and forth to the city to look over me and see me through. And so once everything was done and said, I wound up coming out of the hospital. I was trying to get transferred to Virginia, but New York State was always jump through hoops and all that. So in the process of trying to get transferred to Virginia, and because I had did all the stuff back and forth with the parole, I wound up moving to Virginia when I got out. And I was still on parole, so I was coming back and forth, which was definitely a violation in itself because you're not supposed to live outside of New York when you are on parole. So I was coming back and forth to the city. I was still in the streets, but not hard, not really hard. I was just still in the recovery, still in the taking my time pace of it all. And so I come home. She wanted me to go do therapies and all of the stuff, the vocal stuff and all that stuff I had supposed to have available to me. I nonetheless was, still was in the streets, and she was trying to get me to do therapies and all. So I was adamant I wasn't going to do any of it. I was adamant I was going to just do what I wanted to do. So I sat around all day. I smoked weed all day, and which was crazy because I already had a brain injury, and I was just messing myself up more. So, she was trying to get me to do all these things. I was adamant I wasn't going to do it. I had emotional outbursts because, my brain, I had the brain injury, and the part of your brain that controlled your emotions, it was a part of my brain that was causing me issues. And so I would act out. I was unpredictable. And so she was trying to get me to get help, and I was adamant I wasn't going to do any of it. So, so she wound up. We wound up breaking up. To make a long story short, we wound up breaking up. And during that breakup, of course, I was heartbroken. All at the same time, I used that time to just put myself in a better position. Use that time to focus on myself. Use that time to just heal. And I went hard. When I tell you I went hard, I went hard. I didn't have too much to worry about, too much going on. I had my baby boy, he was taken care of. So the only one I had out here really was me, other than my sibling and my family and all that. My grandmother was alive at the time. She was in North Carolina. But so I focused on me. I focused on getting myself healthy and all, and I did. And all at the same time, I'm still friends with Moet, and I'm still in Charlottesville. And so I met a woman through Moet named Lynn, and Lynn came in my life at the right time. I was still sort of dealing with the loss of being, dumped by Maria. I was still dealing with the recovering of my injury, and I was hungry. I was more focused and dialed in than I can remember in a long time at that point. And so I met a woman that was head over heels in love with me. And so I went immediately, took up to New York, was showing her different how things move, how Harlem moves, how we do in the city. And we took off. And the bad thing about the how fast me and Lynn moved was we never really gained friendship. We never really had a friendship where we can weather storms, where we can be able to get through different circumstances and push through. I was a city dude. She was a country girl. She had her what do you call it? Insecurities based on all the people I knew and how I talked to everybody. I would try to put her at ease and tell her, look, hey, this is how we do. This is how I talk. This is when I know people, I greet them. I don't walk by people I know. I don't act like I don't know somebody I know. But she had a hard time with that. She struggled with that, really did. And so, but I wanted to just finish that part of the story and get it as concise as possible without the hoopla. And so, like I said, I raced this video and did it multiple times, but finally got that part done. And so when I come back, I'll go over the rest. But as always, love somebody, appreciate somebody, do something for somebody. Love you all. Talk to you then.